What is up, everybody? I'd like to welcome each and every one of you back to new One Punch Man Strongest SSR review. Today we're going to be looking at Puri-Puri Prisoner, our resident male lover convict, our resident lowest S-class character. So let's see how good this S-class character is. So, pros to our giveaway over here. He is quite a strong off-meta punisher because the current meta is mostly centered around attack. It is slowly shifting into HP based meta, as you can see with Phoenix Man, Gero, and the upcoming channels. So for now, he still maintains his meta relevancy as a punisher, weakening enemies by 50% of their attack is very good. He's also the bane of Garo, but this is conditional because Garo with insane levels of damage might not be actually hindered by PvP, but in other game modes such as Live Clash, you can actually see this theory in a practical sense. He's also considered quite a niche pick because he's more or less unexpected in a lineup, and most people don't really know about what he does. Honestly, even I didn't know before doing the research for this, so he's actually pretty pog. His keepsake is also free, and you can obtain it via Peak Arena, which is not that hard to achieve actually. If you have friends or you have guildmates who are in the higher ranks, request them to go up if you want PvP's KS or Subterranean King's KS in that sense. Now, some cons to our PvP over here. He, like many other units, require major investment to be good. But unlike most units, he has minor rewards. The strongest you will ever see PvP is in your diamond promotion in arena. Other than that, not really much I would say. He requires outspeeding your enemy because you need to drop your beacon as soon as possible, and this requires Star Ascension cards in most cases, or a very fast monk set, but you might still need Star Ascension cards even with full attack speed monk set. He's also a slot hog, so he basically holds a slot in your main lineup as well as in your extreme training. So whether it is worth it or not, I guess I leave that up to you. In my opinion, personally, I wouldn't go through the trouble. So let's go to his abilities. His passive Angelic Wrath. Last hit deals 40% splash damage in a T shape, and crits increase his splash damage by 100% and it stacks twice. Now, they are not clear how the stacking system works, and when I actually tried to test it out, I couldn't really get the splash values that well either. So it counts the first hit as a stack, so it stacks up to 80%, or what I believe to be so is it stacks up to a total of 120% because you have the base plus 2 extra stacks. So we're gonna go with that. So total of 120%. Extreme passive, your last hit deals an extra 5% on the splash damage. Crit remains the same and it stacks 3 times to a total of 180%. So in theory, it sounds very good. So I actually paired this up with a video with his basic attack, so you're going to see everything all in one motion. So his basic attack hits one enemy dealing 120% attack, and of course it triggers the passive. Let's see here. So that's it. That's some real fun stuff. So kindly ignore my opponent's name. I'm gonna point it out now. For those of you who are Chinese. So his ultimate attacks back row, one unit dealing 210% damage and weakens the enemy attack by 50%. Nothing to. So his ultra, he basically jumps to heaven and attacks the back row for 265% damage, and the weaken maintains the same. So literally flies up to heaven and just. That's about it. Pretty straightforward, huh? So, meta analysis. He's not meta. That's why he's an off meta niche pick. So I tried to gather some info on PvP usage, uh, but it's very limited, mostly to live clash, which is something that I don't really consider when doing my videos, because I consider it a separate game mode with its own separate systems. So it's very hard to compare to the main game. So the main game, nobody really uses PvP. The strongest I've seen is a 4-star with 3 purple stars, and even that just gets one shot by Garo. So yeah, that's it for the meta analysis, I guess. So material expense. Limit break, you're not recommended to go past star 2. Mine is star 4 just because I can. I'll probably reverse him if I need the grappler badges that desperately, but I probably don't. He's only viable as a support, so don't waste an ET slot. ET your LSSRs, ET CK, ET whatever that's not PvP. If you want to ET PvP, that's on you, man. But if you're eating PvP, I don't think you're a PvP player. At least not at the highest level. Probably in lower tiers, the PvP will probably dominate as strong Garo counter. Awakening, please completely avoid it. Don't even bother. Don't even think of doing it. Highly not recommended. And you have many other units as a better option. You have Garo, you have King. Even Amai Mars is a better option at this point. After this, you're gonna have Janos, you're gonna have ATT. Some of you who have King might just go do King. Just don't waste your materials on PvP. Additional information, if you still want to run PvP and you don't want to listen to me, it's fine. Monk for attack speed is ideal. You get as much speed as possible. You want to run a bit of crit, so it's fine. Personally, I just go with whatever set I have, because I don't really use him except to weaken boss in cup contest. We also run a broken set for attack speed, for HP speed, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Because PvP is just there to weaken. The 50% weaken is his best selling point. Talent, highly recommended against opening. I haven't seen anybody that opened past Talent 1. Some have opened Talent 2, but nobody has pursued Talent 3 yet, at least not from the people that I've asked. But it's likely going to be True Strike or Unstoppable, similar to Amai. So it's either it deals more damage when enemies are 80% health above, or deals more damage when enemies have 20% health or below. So there's really nothing much. You're not supposed to invest in this character long term. It's more of a short-term stint just to counter a strong meta attacker or to counter some certain bosses that hit too hard. For buff gears, 3 attack is the best, I would say. If you're ever going to put buff gears on him. Oh, not bad. Okay, now let's run through his major issues. So this is the reason why PvP is not favored. Okay, number one, as I mentioned, he's a very niche pick. The reason why he's a very niche pick is because he has very limited use. He gets weakened. In theory, his damage looks good, but at the same time, you need to understand that he's a single target attacker. Although he can hit enemies in a T shape, you're going to be aiming to stop the major attacker wherever it is. It's probably going to be in the middle or not going to be in the middle, we don't know. And now with Gyro meta, you have 6 energy. So you have 3 ults. So you stop 1 ult. And then you have 2 other ults to deal with. Will that actually allow your team to actually survive? That is something you need to weigh. If the answer is yes, then by all means go ahead. He has no value versus Genos because Genos gets its damage from HP scaling and PvP weakens attack. So counterproductive, doesn't make any sense. So once Genos is out, PvP is just there as fodder. It requires insane speed tuning. You need to outspeed your opponents, not be the fastest speed in the team, but outspeed your opponents, so you're competing with your opponents. And you also need to position PvP against something like a Garo, because Garo tend to be the biggest nuisance attack wise, I would say. And it's also quite low rewards versus investment because you're just mostly going for the weaken. He doesn't really do too much damage. It's not insane. to the point where it can actually cause some significant damage to certain teams. But I would say, like, if you max invest PvP, maybe he will be very very good. Looking at the damage scaling, maybe it can be really really good, because it's either for 5-star passive lah, it's either 135 or it's 180. Because I don't have enough people to sort of like test it out. I tested it out myself also. It's like I also quite blue. So most likely than not it's 135. So the scaling is not that good. And then there are many other competing units. Competing in the sense not as in the utility of PvP, but at the same time as competing for a spot in the lineup. Because now you guarantee 3 Aspers in the lineup and you need 1 grappler. The grappler will most probably be a tank, because you definitely need a tank. So most probably, okay, let's say it's CK or Tank Top Master. So CK or Tank Top Master. So you have 2 other slots. Then you need to have 1 main damager. Your main damager, if it's Esper, it will be King. If it's not, it will be Goketsu. So you have 5 slots Goketsu. So then you have 1 last slot. Do you really want to put PvP in that 1 last slot? That is something you need to weigh. Do you really think your PvP will be able to provide a significant amount of utility to the team that he's worth to sacrifice that 1 slot? And then if the answer is no, then you're basically on the right track to understanding how layering and synergy works in the team. Because to understand how layering and synergy works, you need to understand how your team must be built around. So if your team can incorporate PvP, then that might be a deadly team, or it might be a very niche team that you're trying out. I'm not saying to not try it out for yourself. I'm just saying that you better be prepared for the cost of trying it out, because spend quite a bit of gems to understand PvP. Not going to lie. So with that said, I guess that's all from me. I don't want to drag too long. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Peace.